The entire history of the Roman Empire, from rise to fall, 753 BC to 1453 BC. Have you ever wondered how an ancient civilization rose to dominate the known world, only to crumble into the annals of history? Join me on a journey through time as we explore the entire history of Roman Empire, from its humble beginnings to its majestic zenith and eventual demise. Picture yourself standing amidst the bustling streets of ancient Rome, where the air is thick with anticipation and ambition. Imagine the thrill of witnessing the birth of a republic, the triumphs of mighty conquerors, and the grandeur of an empire that stretched from the misty shores of Britannia to the sun-soaked lands of Egypt. But beyond the glitz and glory lies a tale of intrigue, betrayal, and the inexorable march of time. Stay tuned as we unravel the mysteries of Rome's rise to power and unravel the threads of its eventual downfall. Brace yourself for an unforgettable odyssey through the corridors of history, where every twist and turn reveals new insights into the eternal city's enduring legacy. Introduction. Welcome to the captivating world of the Roman Empire, a civilization that left an indelible mark on the tapestry of human history. Our journey begins over 2.5 millennia ago in the heart of ancient Italy, where a humble settlement would grow to become one of the greatest powers the world has ever known. Legend has it that Rome was founded in 753 BC by the twin brothers Romulus and Remus, raised by a she-wolf and destined for greatness. While the truth may be shrouded in myth, there's no denying the significance of Rome's emergence as a cultural and political force in the ancient world. Founding of Rome, 753 BC. In the annals of history, few origins are as enigmatic and steeped in myth as that of Rome, a city whose legendary beginnings have captivated imaginations for millennia. The tale, as recounted by ancient sources, spins a narrative rich with symbolism and significance, intertwining the fates of two brothers, Romulus and Remus, with the destiny of a nascent civilization. According to tradition, Rome's genesis can be traced back to the mid-8th century BC, a time when the Italian peninsula was a patchwork of city-states vying for dominance. It is amidst this backdrop of political upheaval and territorial ambition that the saga of Romulus and Remus unfolds. Legend has it that the twins were born of divine lineage, descendants of the Trojan hero Aeneas, who fled the burning ruins of Troy to found a new kingdom in Italy. Yet their infancy was marred by tragedy and abandonment, as they were cast adrift in a basket on the swift currents of the Tiber River. Miraculously, they were spared from certain death by the intervention of a she-wolf who took pity on the helpless infants and suckled them as her own. This iconic image of the wolf nursing the twins has become an enduring symbol of Rome's mythical origins, embodying the city's dual nature as a bastion of civilization and a product of the untamed wilderness. It speaks to the primal forces at play in the founding of Rome, where the forces of nature and nurture converge to shape the destiny of a people. As Romulus and Remus grew, so too did their ambition to establish a city of their own. Yet their dreams were soon overshadowed by a bitter rivalry that would culminate in fratricide. In a tragic twist of fate, Romulus slew his own brother in a fit of rage, forever staining the soil of Rome with the blood of kinship. Undeterred by this act of violence, Romulus pressed on with his vision, laying the foundations of a new city atop the Palatine Hill, one of the 7 hills of Rome. It was here, amidst the rugged terrain and verdant landscapes, that Rome would take root and flourish, rising from the ashes of fratricide to become the heart of an empire. The founding of Rome marked a pivotal moment in the history of the ancient world, heralding the birth of a civilization that would leave an indelible mark on human history. Yet it is also a story shrouded in mystery and intrigue, its details obscured by the passage of time and the embellishments of legend. While modern historians may debate the historicity of Romulus and Remus, there can be no denying the enduring power of their myth to captivate the human imagination. For in the legend of Rome's founding, we find echoes of our own origins, reminders of the primal forces that shape our destinies, and the enduring legacy of those who came before us. As we embark on this journey through the annals of Roman history, let us heed the lessons of the past and seek to unravel the mysteries that lie buried beneath the sands of time. For in the stories of Rome, we find not only the triumphs and tragedies of a bygone era, but also the enduring spirit of a people whose legacy lives on in the annals of history. The Roman Republic, 509 BC, 27 BC. The rise of the Roman Republic marks a pivotal chapter in the saga of Rome's journey through history. Emerging from the shadows of monarchy, the Republic represented a bold experiment in governance, one that would shape the destiny of Rome and reverberate across the annals of time. In the year 509 BC, tradition holds that the last Roman king, Tarquin the Proud, was expelled from the city following a series of abuses of power. In his place, Rome established a republican form of government, characterized by a system of checks and balances and the distribution of power among various branches of government. Central to the structure of the Roman Republic was the Senate, an assembly of elite patrician families who wielded considerable influence over matters of state. It was here, within the hallowed halls of the Senate House, that decisions of war and peace were deliberated and laws were enacted for the betterment of the Republic. Yet the Republic was not a true democracy, as political power remained concentrated in the hands of a privileged few. The plebeians, comprising the majority of Rome's population, often found themselves marginalized and disenfranchised, forced to fight for their rights through a series of social and political struggles known as the conflict of the orders. Despite these internal tensions, the Roman Republic thrived, expanding its territory through a series of military conquests and diplomatic alliances. From the fertile plains of Italy to the shores of distant lands, Rome's legions marched forth, bringing under their sway a vast swath of territory and peoples. At its zenith, the Roman Republic stood as a beacon of civilization, its influence stretching from the western shores of the Mediterranean to the far reaches of the known world. Yet beneath the veneer of grandeur lay the seeds of discontent, as rivalries between ambitious generals and political factions threatened to tear the Republic apart. The transition from Republic to Empire, which culminated in the rise of Julius Caesar and the subsequent establishment of imperial rule, marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in Roman history. Yet, the legacy of the Republic endured, serving as a testament to the enduring power of republican ideals and the quest for liberty and justice for all. Conquest of Italy, 4th and 3rd centuries BC. The conquest of Italy during the 4th and 3rd centuries BC stands as a watershed moment in the annals of Roman history, marking the ascent of Rome from a regional power to a dominant force in the Mediterranean world. This period of expansion and consolidation saw Rome assert its authority over the diverse peoples and territories of the Italian peninsula, laying the groundwork for its future imperial ambitions. At the dawn of the Roman Republic, Italy was a patchwork of rival city-states, tribal confederations, and independent communities, each vying for supremacy in the fertile lands of the peninsula. In this fragmented landscape, Rome emerged as a rising power, its strategic location along the Tiber River, and its formidable military prowess setting it apart from its rivals. The early years of the Republic were marked by a series of conflicts with neighboring states and tribes, as Rome sought to secure its borders and expand its territory. These wars, known as the Roman Samnite Wars, saw Rome clash with the powerful Samnite Confederation in a series of protracted campaigns that tested the mettle of the fledgling Republic. The turning point came with the decisive victory of Rome at the Battle of Sentinum in 295 BC, where Roman legions under the command of the consul Decius Mus emerged triumphant over the combined forces of the Samnites, Etruscans, and Gauls. This victory secured Roman dominance over central Italy and paved the way for further conquests in the region. With the defeat of the Samnites, Rome embarked on a relentless campaign of expansion, subjugating neighboring city-states and tribal communities and incorporating them into its growing empire. The Romans proved adept at both military conquest and diplomacy, forging alliances with some states while crushing others under the heel of their legions. One of the most remarkable aspects of Rome's conquest of Italy was its ability to assimilate conquered peoples into its political, social, and cultural fabric. Unlike other ancient empires, which often imposed harsh terms on their subjects, Rome offered citizenship and rights to its allies, granting them a stake in the success of the Republic. This policy of inclusion and integration, known as Romanization, proved to be a key factor in Rome's long-term success, as it fostered loyalty and cooperation among diverse peoples and helped to create a sense of unity and identity within the growing empire. By the end of the 3rd century BC, Rome had emerged as the dominant power in Italy, its territory stretching from the Alps in the north to the Bay of Naples in the south. The conquest of Italy laid the foundation for Rome's future greatness, providing the Republic with the resources, manpower, and strategic position necessary for further expansion. Yet, even as Rome celebrated its triumphs, challenges loomed on the horizon. The Republic faced internal divisions, economic crises, and external threats that would test its resilience and ultimately lead to its downfall. In the coming centuries, Rome would grapple with the complexities of empire, confronting issues of governance, citizenship, and identity that would shape the course of its history for centuries to come. As we reflect on the conquest of Italy, let us not forget the sacrifices and struggles of those who came before us, whose courage and determination paved the way for the rise of one of the greatest civilizations in human history. The conquest of Italy stands as a testament to the enduring spirit of Rome, a civilization that would leave an indelible mark on the world for centuries to come. Punic Wars, 264 BC to 146 BC. The Punic Wars, a series of 3 conflicts between Rome and Carthage, were pivotal events that reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the ancient Mediterranean world and ultimately led to the rise of Rome as the preeminent power in the region. Spanning over a century from 264 BC to 146 BC, these wars were marked by epic naval battles, daring military campaigns, and shifting alliances, leaving an indelible mark on the history of both Rome and Carthage. The First Punic War, 264 BC, 241 BC, erupted over control of the strategic island of Sicily, a wealthy and strategically significant territory that lay at the crossroads of the Mediterranean. Both Rome and Carthage sought to assert their dominance over the island, leading to a protracted conflict characterized by naval engagements, sieges, and pitched battles. The decisive turning point of the First Punic War came with the Battle of the Aegates Islands in 241 BC, where the Roman navy achieved a stunning victory over the Carthaginian fleet, effectively ending Carthage's dominance of the seas and forcing them to sue for peace. The resulting treaty, known as the Treaty of Lutatius, saw Carthage cede control of Sicily to Rome and pay a hefty indemnity, marking the beginning of Rome's ascendancy in the Mediterranean. Yet peace was short-lived, as simmering tensions between Rome and Carthage erupted once again in the Second Punic War, 218 BC, 201 BC. This conflict, perhaps the most famous of the Punic Wars, was sparked by the audacious actions of the Carthaginian general Hannibal, who famously led an army, including elephants, across the Alps into Italy, launching a daring campaign of invasion and conquest. Hannibal's victories at the battles of Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae sent shockwaves throughout the Roman world, decimating Roman legions and threatening the very survival of the Republic. However, Rome, under the leadership of figures such as Scipio Africanus, eventually rallied its forces and turned the tide of the war, defeating Hannibal at the decisive Battle of Zama in 202 BC. The Second Punic War concluded with the Treaty of Zama, which imposed harsh terms on Carthage, including the loss of its overseas territories, a massive indemnity, and severe restrictions on its military capabilities. Despite this setback, Carthage remained a formidable power in the Mediterranean, and tensions between Rome and Carthage simmered beneath the surface, waiting to erupt once again. The Third Punic War, 149 BC, 146 BC, was the culmination of decades of animosity and rivalry between Rome and Carthage. Fueled by Roman expansionism and a desire for revenge, Rome launched a brutal campaign of conquest against Carthage, besieging and ultimately destroying the city in 146 BC. The fall of Carthage marked the end of an era and solidified Rome's dominance of the Mediterranean world. Yet, it also heralded the beginning of a new chapter in Roman history, as Rome grappled with the challenges of empire and confronted new threats on its borders. As we reflect on the legacy of the Punic Wars, let us not forget the sacrifices and struggles of those who fought and died on both sides of the conflict. The Punic Wars were more than just a series of battles. They were a clash of civilizations, a struggle for supremacy that shaped the destiny of the ancient world and laid the groundwork for the rise of Rome as one of the greatest empires in history. Rise of Julius Caesar, 100 BC to 44 BC. The rise of Julius Caesar marks a pivotal chapter in the annals of Roman history, a tale of ambition, cunning, and political intrigue that would forever alter the course of the Republic. Born into a noble patrician family in 100 BC, Caesar rose to prominence through a combination of military prowess, charisma, and shrewd political maneuvering, ultimately ascending to the pinnacle of power as dictator of Rome. From an early age, Caesar displayed a talent for leadership and a thirst for glory. He distinguished himself on the battlefield, earning the respect and admiration of his troops through acts of bravery and strategic brilliance. His conquests in Gaul, where he served as governor from 58 BC to 50 BC, cemented his reputation as one of Rome's greatest military commanders, expanding Rome's territory and wealth while solidifying his own power base. Yet it was not just Caesar's military exploits that propelled him to prominence, it was also his skill as a politician and statesman. Caesar was a master of manipulation, adept at navigating the treacherous waters of Roman politics, and forging alliances with key figures in the Senate and among the Roman elite. His charisma and charm endeared him to the Roman populace, while his promises of land, wealth, and opportunity won him a loyal following among the disaffected and disenfranchised. Caesar's rise to power was not without its challenges. He faced formidable rivals in the form of Pompey the Great, a fellow general and statesman, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of Rome's wealthiest and most influential men. The uneasy alliance between Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus, known as the First Triumvirate, allowed Caesar to consolidate his power and pursue his ambitious agenda of reform and expansion. However, tensions within the triumvirate eventually boiled over, leading to a bitter power struggle between Caesar and Pompey. In 49 BC, Pompey, backed by a faction of senators and nobles, declared Caesar an enemy of the state and called for his arrest. In response, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his loyal legions, famously declaring, "The die is cast," and igniting a civil war that would shake the foundations of the Republic. The ensuing conflict, known as the Civil War, pitted Caesar against Pompey and his allies in a struggle for control of Rome. Despite being outnumbered and outmatched, Caesar's military genius and political acumen carried the day, culminating in his decisive victory at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was ultimately assassinated, leaving Caesar as the undisputed master of Rome. In the aftermath of the Civil War, Caesar was appointed dictator for life, effectively consolidating his power and transforming the Republic into a de facto dictatorship. His reforms, which included measures to alleviate poverty, promote land reform, and expand citizenship, earned him the adoration of the common people, but also aroused the suspicion and resentment of the Senate and the aristocracy. Despite his many achievements, Caesar's rule was not without controversy. His authoritarian tendencies and disregard for traditional Roman institutions alienated many of his former allies and fueled a conspiracy among a group of senators who conspired to assassinate him on the Ides of March in 44 BC. The assassination of Caesar plunged Rome into turmoil once again, setting off a power struggle that would ultimately lead to the downfall of the Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire. Yet even in death, Caesar's legacy endured, shaping the course of Roman history for centuries to come and leaving an indelible mark on the world. The Roman Empire, 27 BC to 476 AD. With the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BC, the Roman Republic entered a period of tumult and uncertainty, marked by political upheaval, civil strife, and the rise of ambitious individuals vying for power. In the wake of Caesar's death, a power vacuum emerged, leading to a series of civil wars and power struggles that would ultimately culminate in the demise of the Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire. One figure who emerged as a central figure in this period of transition was Caesar's adopted heir, Gaius Octavius, who would later come to be known as Augustus Caesar. Born in 63 BC, Octavius was thrust into the political arena at an early age following the assassination of his great-uncle Julius Caesar. Despite his youth and inexperience, Octavius proved to be a shrewd and capable leader, adept at navigating the treacherous waters of Roman politics and forging alliances with key figures in the Senate and the military. In 27 BC, following years of civil war and political maneuvering, Octavius emerged victorious as the sole ruler of Rome, effectively bringing an end to the Roman Republic and inaugurating a new era in Roman history. He took on the title of Augustus, meaning the revered one, and assumed the role of princeps, or first citizen, effectively establishing a system of imperial rule that would endure for centuries. Under the rule of Augustus and his successors, the Roman Empire experienced a period of unprecedented stability and prosperity known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. This era, which lasted from 27 BC to 180 AD, saw Rome emerge as the dominant power in the Mediterranean world, its borders extending from the shores of Britain in the north to the deserts of Egypt in the south. The Pax Romana was characterized by relative peace, economic prosperity, and cultural flourishing, as Rome's vast network of roads, ports, and trade routes facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies across the empire. Roman cities thrived, their streets bustling with activity as merchants, artisans, and intellectuals from across the empire mingled and exchanged ideas. Yet, the Pax Romana was not without its challenges. Rome faced threats from without, as barbarian tribes pressed against its frontiers, and from within, as internal divisions and power struggles threatened to unravel the fabric of society. Nevertheless, Rome's legions stood firm, defending the empire's borders and maintaining its hegemony over the known world. The reign of Augustus and his successors saw the consolidation of imperial power and the establishment of a system of government that would endure for centuries. The emperor, assisted by a bureaucracy of administrators and advisors, wielded absolute authority over the empire, governing with a mixture of pragmatism, ruthlessness, and charisma. Throughout its long and storied history, the Roman Empire would undergo periods of expansion and contraction, prosperity and decline. Yet its legacy endured, shaping the course of Western civilization and leaving an indelible mark on the world. From the grandeur of its architecture to the sophistication of its legal system, Rome's influence can still be felt today, a testament to the enduring power of one of the greatest empires in history. Pax Romana, 27 BC to 180 AD. The Pax Romana, or Roman peace, stands as one of the most remarkable periods of stability and prosperity in human history. Spanning over 2 centuries from 27 BC to 180 AD, this era of relative tranquility saw Rome emerge as the dominant power in the Mediterranean world, its influence stretching from the shores of Britannia in the north to the deserts of Egypt in the south. Under the firm and capable leadership of Augustus Caesar and his successors, the Roman Empire experienced a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity. The empire's vast network of roads, bridges, and ports facilitated trade and commerce, while its formidable legions ensured the security of its borders and the stability of its territories. One of the hallmarks of the Pax Romana was its emphasis on law and order. Augustus and his successors enacted a series of legal reforms aimed at maintaining social harmony and protecting the rights of Roman citizens. The Roman legal system, based on principles of equity and justice, served as a model for legal systems throughout the Western world and laid the groundwork for the development of modern legal principles. The Pax Romana also witnessed a flourishing of culture and learning. Roman literature, art, and architecture reached new heights of sophistication and creativity, as poets such as Virgil and Horace, artists such as Michelangelo and Raphael, and architects such as Vitruvius and Apollodorus left an indelible mark on the cultural landscape of the empire. Yet, the Pax Romana was not without its challenges. Rome faced threats from without, as barbarian tribes and rival powers sought to challenge its dominance, and from within, as internal divisions and power struggles threatened to undermine the stability of the empire. Nevertheless, Rome's legions stood firm, defending its borders and maintaining its hegemony over the known world. The Pax Romana came to an end in 180 AD with the death of Emperor Marcus Aurelius and the onset of a period of instability known as the Crisis of the 3rd century. Yet its legacy endured, shaping the course of Western civilization and leaving an indelible mark on the world. From the grandeur of its monuments to the enduring influence of its legal and political institutions, Rome's legacy continues to resonate today, a testament to the enduring power of one of the greatest empires in history. Romanization. The process of Romanization stands as a testament to the far-reaching influence of the Roman Empire and its ability to assimilate and integrate diverse cultures and peoples into its vast imperial fold. Spanning over centuries from the rise of the Republic to the fall of the Western Empire, Romanization was a multifaceted phenomenon that encompassed aspects of language, law, culture, religion, and administration. At its core, Romanization was a process of cultural exchange and acculturation, whereby Roman values, customs, and institutions were spread throughout the empire, transforming local societies and reshaping the social and cultural landscape of the ancient world. Yet it was not a one-sided imposition of Roman culture onto conquered peoples. Rather, it was a dynamic and complex interaction between Rome and the myriad cultures and civilizations that comprised its empire. One of the most visible manifestations of Romanization was the spread of the Latin language throughout the empire. Latin, originally spoken by the inhabitants of Latium in central Italy, gradually became the lingua franca of the Roman world, adopted by both elites and commoners alike as a means of communication and administration. Latin inscriptions can be found on monuments, public buildings, and tombstones throughout the empire, serving as a lasting testament to the enduring legacy of Roman culture. Yet Latin was not the only language to leave its mark on the Roman world. In the eastern provinces of the empire, Greek remained the dominant language of administration and culture, while other languages, such as Aramaic, Coptic, and Punic, persisted alongside Latin in the western provinces. The result was a rich tapestry of linguistic diversity that reflected the multicultural nature of the Roman Empire. In addition to language, Romanization also encompassed the spread of Roman law and institutions throughout the empire. The Roman legal system, based on principles of equity, justice, and the rule of law, served as a model for legal systems throughout the Western world and laid the groundwork for the development of modern legal principles. Roman law codes, such as the 12 Tables and the Justinian Code, provided a framework for the administration of justice and the resolution of disputes, ensuring the stability and cohesion of the empire. Another aspect of Romanization was the spread of Roman culture and religion throughout the empire. Roman gods and goddesses, such as Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, were worshipped alongside local deities in temples and shrines throughout the empire, while Roman festivals, such as Saturnalia and the Lupercalia, became popular celebrations among people of all backgrounds. Christianity, which emerged in the eastern provinces of the empire during the 1st century AD, spread rapidly throughout the Roman world, eventually becoming the official religion of the empire under Emperor Constantine the Great in the 4th century AD. Yet perhaps the most enduring legacy of Romanization was the transformation of the physical landscape of the empire. Roman engineers and architects constructed a vast network of roads, bridges, aqueducts, and public buildings that linked the far-flung corners of the empire and facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. Roman cities, with their gridiron street plans, public baths, amphitheaters, and forums, became centers of urban life and civic pride, serving as symbols of Roman power and civilization. As we reflect on the process of Romanization, it is important to recognize both its achievements and its limitations. While Romanization brought many benefits to the peoples of the empire, including improved infrastructure, legal protections, and access to Roman citizenship, it also led to the erosion of local customs, languages, and traditions, as indigenous cultures were subsumed into the broader framework of Roman civilization. Moreover, Romanization was not a uniform or linear process. Rather, it varied widely from region to region and was shaped by local circumstances, cultural traditions, and historical factors. In some areas, such as Gaul and Spain, Romanization proceeded rapidly, with local elites eagerly embracing Roman customs and institutions, while in others, such as Britain and Germany, resistance to Romanization was more pronounced, leading to a more gradual and uneven process of acculturation. Yet despite these challenges, the legacy of Romanization endures, shaping the course of Western civilization and leaving an indelible mark on the world. From the language we speak to the laws we abide by, the cultural legacy of Rome continues to resonate today, a testament to the enduring power of one of the greatest empires in history. Crisis of the 3rd century, 235 AD to 284 AD. The crisis of the 3rd century stands as one of the most tumultuous and challenging periods in the history of the Roman Empire, a time of political instability, economic collapse, and military chaos that threatened the very survival of the empire. Spanning over half a century from 235 AD to 284 AD, this era of crisis saw Rome besieged by a series of internal and external threats that pushed the empire to the brink of collapse. The crisis had its roots in a confluence of factors, including political instability, economic decline, and military unrest. The assassination of Emperor Severus Alexander in 235 AD marked the beginning of a period of instability known as the Barracks Emperors, characterized by frequent changes in leadership, rampant corruption, and the breakdown of central authority. With the empire beset by internal strife, external threats began to multiply. Barbarian tribes, such as the Goths, Vandals, and Alemanni, launched devastating raids across the empire's frontiers, pillaging towns and villages and sowing fear and chaos among the populace. At the same time, the Sasanian Empire, a powerful Persian state, launched a series of invasions into the eastern provinces, capturing key cities and territories and posing a serious threat to Roman security. Amidst these external threats, the Roman economy began to falter as trade routes were disrupted, agricultural production declined, and inflation soared. The debasement of the currency, combined with heavy taxation and the collapse of the traditional patronage system, led to widespread poverty and social unrest, exacerbating the empire's already precarious situation. The crisis also had profound implications for the Roman military, which found itself overstretched and under-resourced in the face of mounting threats. Legions were called upon to defend the empire's frontiers from barbarian incursions, suppress internal revolts, and maintain order in the face of widespread lawlessness. Yet, despite their efforts, the Roman army was unable to stem the tide of chaos and instability that swept across the empire. One of the most enduring legacies of the crisis of the 3rd century was the emergence of a new form of imperial governance known as the Dominate. In response to the challenges of the crisis, Emperor Diocletian enacted a series of sweeping reforms aimed at centralizing power, strengthening the military, and restoring stability to the empire. Under the Dominate system, power was concentrated in the hands of the emperor, who ruled as an absolute monarch with near-absolute authority over the empire. Diocletian divided the empire into 4 administrative units, known as dioceses, each governed by a senior official known as a vicarius, who served as the emperor's representative in the provinces. In addition to these administrative reforms, Diocletian also sought to stabilize the economy and restore confidence in the currency by issuing a new gold coin known as the aureus, which became the standard unit of currency throughout the empire. He also implemented price controls and wage freezes to combat inflation and restore stability to the economy. Yet despite these efforts, the crisis of the 3rd century continued to take its toll on the empire. Internal strife and external threats persisted, as rival claimants to the throne vied for power and barbarian tribes continued to raid and pillage Roman territory. The situation remained precarious, with the empire teetering on the brink of collapse. It was not until the reign of Emperor Constantine the Great, who came to power in 306 AD, that the crisis began to abate. Constantine's military victories, administrative reforms, and conversion to Christianity brought a measure of stability to the empire and laid the groundwork for its eventual recovery. As we reflect on the crisis of the 3rd century, it is important to recognize both its challenges and its enduring legacy. The crisis tested the resilience of the Roman Empire as never before, pushing it to the brink of collapse and forcing it to adapt and evolve in the face of unprecedented challenges. Yet it also laid the groundwork for the emergence of a new form of imperial governance and set the stage for the rise of one of the greatest empires in history. Diocletian and the Tetrarchy, 284 AD, 305 AD. The reign of Diocletian, from 284 AD to 305 AD, marks a pivotal moment in the history of the Roman Empire, a period of profound transformation and reorganization that sought to address the challenges of the crisis of the 3rd century and restore stability to the empire. Diocletian's rule was characterized by a series of sweeping reforms aimed at centralizing power, strengthening the military, and revitalizing the economy, culminating in the establishment of the Tetrarchy, a system of imperial governance that would shape the course of Roman history for centuries to come. Born in 244 AD to a family of humble origins, Diocletian rose through the ranks of the Roman army to become emperor in 284 AD, following a period of instability and civil strife known as the crisis of the 3rd century. Recognizing the need for strong and decisive leadership, Diocletian wasted no time in implementing a series of far-reaching reforms aimed at restoring stability and order to the empire. One of Diocletian's most significant reforms was the establishment of the Tetrarchy, a system of imperial governance that divided the empire into 4 administrative units, or tetrarchies, each ruled by a senior emperor known as an Augustus and a junior emperor known as a Caesar. The Tetrarchy was designed to decentralize power, improve administrative efficiency, and ensure a smooth succession of power in the event of the death or abdication of an emperor. Under the Tetrarchy, Diocletian ruled as the senior Augustus, with authority over the eastern provinces of the empire, while his co-emperor Maximian ruled as the junior Augustus, with authority over the western provinces. Each Augustus was paired with a Caesar, who served as his designated successor and deputy, overseeing a designated portion of the empire, and preparing to assume the role of Augustus upon the death or retirement of his senior counterpart. The establishment of the Tetrarchy marked a significant departure from traditional Roman notions of imperial governance, which had long been characterized by the centralized authority of a single emperor. Yet, it was a necessary response to the challenges of the crisis of the 3rd century, which had exposed the weaknesses of the imperial system and highlighted the need for a more stable and resilient form of government. In addition to the Tetrarchy, Diocletian enacted a series of administrative reforms aimed at strengthening the central authority of the emperor and improving the efficiency of the imperial bureaucracy. He divided the empire into smaller administrative units known as dioceses, each governed by a senior official known as a vicarius, who served as the emperor's representative in the provinces. Diocletian also sought to revitalize the Roman economy, which had been ravaged by decades of war, instability, and economic decline. He implemented a series of price controls and wage freezes to combat inflation and restore stability to the economy, while also imposing heavy taxes and levies on the population to fund his ambitious public works projects and military campaigns. Yet despite his efforts, Diocletian's reign was not without its challenges. The empire continued to face threats from without, as barbarian tribes pressed against its frontiers, and from within, as rival claimants to the throne vied for power and influence. Diocletian himself faced several assassination attempts and was forced to spend much of his reign on military campaigns to defend the empire's borders and suppress internal revolts. In 305 AD, after 21 years of rule, Diocletian shocked the empire by announcing his abdication, becoming the first Roman emperor to voluntarily retire from office. He was succeeded by his designated successor Galerius, who assumed the title of Augustus and continued Diocletian's policies of centralization and reform. As we reflect on the reign of Diocletian and the establishment of the Tetrarchy, it is clear that his reforms had a profound and lasting impact on the course of Roman history. The Tetrarchy represented a bold experiment in imperial governance, one that sought to address the challenges of the crisis of the 3rd century and restore stability and order to the empire. Though the Tetrarchy would ultimately prove to be short-lived, collapsing under the weight of internal divisions and external pressures, its legacy endured, shaping the course of Roman history for centuries to come. Constantine the Great, 306 AD to 337 AD. The reign of Constantine the Great, from 306 AD to 337 AD, marks a pivotal moment in the history of the Roman Empire, a period of profound transformation and change that would forever alter the course of Western civilization. Born in 272 AD in the city of Nisus, in the province of Moesia, modern-day Serbia, Constantine rose to power through a combination of military prowess, political acumen, and strategic alliances, ultimately becoming one of the most significant figures in Roman history. Constantine's rise to power was marked by intrigue and upheaval, as he navigated the complex and treacherous world of Roman politics in the midst of the crisis of the 3rd century. In 306 AD, following the death of his father, Constantius Chlorus, Constantine was proclaimed emperor by his troops in the city of York, beginning a period of civil war and conflict known as the Tetrarchic Wars. After emerging victorious in a series of military campaigns and power struggles, Constantine solidified his control over the western provinces of the empire and sought to consolidate his power through a series of bold and innovative reforms. In 312 AD, he famously issued the Edict of Milan, granting religious tolerance to Christians and ending decades of persecution, a move that would have profound implications for the future of the empire and the course of Western civilization. Constantine's conversion to Christianity marked a turning point in Roman history, as he became the first Roman emperor to embrace the new faith and to promote its spread throughout the empire. Under his patronage, Christianity flourished, with churches and monasteries springing up across the empire and Christian clergy assuming prominent positions of influence and authority. Yet, Constantine's reign was not without its challenges. He faced threats from rival claimants to the throne, both within and outside the empire, as well as from barbarian tribes and hostile powers on Rome's frontiers. In 324 AD, Constantine emerged victorious in a decisive battle against his last remaining rival, Licinius, consolidating his control over the entire empire and ushering in a new era of stability and prosperity. One of Constantine's most enduring legacies was his role in the transformation of the Roman Empire from a predominantly pagan state into a Christian one. In addition to issuing the Edict of Milan, Constantine convened the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, bringing together Christian bishops from across the empire to resolve theological disputes and establish a unified doctrine for the Christian faith. Constantine also played a central role in the construction of Constantinople, a new imperial capital located on the site of the ancient Greek city of Byzantium. Conceived as a new Rome and a symbol of Constantine's vision for a Christian empire, Constantinople would serve as the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire for over 1,000 years, exerting a profound influence on the course of Byzantine history and culture. Yet, despite his many achievements, Constantine's reign was not without controversy. He faced criticism from both pagans and Christians for his authoritarian rule, his use of violence and coercion, and his attempts to impose religious unity on a diverse and fragmented empire. In particular, his role in the execution of his own son, Crispus, and his wife, Fausta, remains a subject of debate among historians to this day. As we reflect on the reign of Constantine the Great, it is clear that his legacy is a complex and multifaceted one. He was a man of contradictions, a visionary leader who sought to build a new and better world, yet who was also capable of great cruelty and ruthlessness in pursuit of his goals. Yet, whatever his flaws and shortcomings, Constantine's impact on the course of Western civilization cannot be denied. He was a towering figure in Roman history, whose influence continues to be felt to this day, a testament to the enduring power of one of the greatest emperors in history. Division of the Empire, 395 AD. The division of the Roman Empire in 395 AD marks a significant turning point in the history of the ancient world, as the once mighty empire was split into two separate entities, each with its own capital, government, and identity. This division, which divided the empire into the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, would have profound implications for the future of Europe and the course of Western civilization. By the late 4th century AD, the Roman Empire had grown increasingly unwieldy and difficult to govern, as internal divisions, economic decline, and external threats strained the empire's resources and tested its resilience. In 395 AD, following the death of Emperor Theodosius V, the empire was divided between his two sons, Honorius and Arcadius, with the western provinces falling under the control of Honorius and the eastern provinces falling under the control of Arcadius. The division of the empire was not a sudden or abrupt event, but rather the culmination of decades of gradual decline and fragmentation. In the West, the Roman Empire had long been beset by internal strife, economic decline, and barbarian invasions, while in the East, the empire had remained relatively stable and prosperous, thanks to its strong economy, robust military, and strategic location at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. The division of the empire into East and West reflected the growing political, economic, and cultural differences between the two regions. In the West, the Roman Empire was characterized by declining economic prosperity, political instability, and increasing reliance on barbarian mercenaries to defend its borders. In the East, by contrast, the Byzantine Empire was characterized by economic vitality, political stability, and a strong centralized government. One of the most significant consequences of the division of the empire was the emergence of two separate and distinct centers of power and authority. In the West, the city of Rome remained the symbolic heart of the empire, while in the East, the city of Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, emerged as the new imperial capital, and the center of political, economic, and cultural life. Constantinople, founded by Emperor Constantine the Great in 330 AD, was ideally situated at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, with easy access to the Mediterranean Sea, the Black Sea, and the major trade routes of the ancient world. As a result, it quickly grew into one of the wealthiest and most cosmopolitan cities in the empire, rivaling Rome in wealth, power, and prestige. The division of the empire also had profound implications for the future of Christianity, as the church became increasingly entangled in the political and religious conflicts of the age. In the West, the Roman Catholic Church emerged as the dominant religious institution, while in the East, the Greek Orthodox Church came to prominence, reflecting the cultural and linguistic differences between the two regions. Yet, despite these differences, both the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire continued to see themselves as part of the same Roman tradition, heirs to the legacy of Rome's glory and greatness. Both empires continued to use the title of Roman Emperor and to uphold the ideals of Roman citizenship, law, and culture, even as they faced growing threats from barbarian invasions, internal unrest, and external pressures. The division of the empire did not bring an end to Rome's troubles, however. In the West, the Western Roman Empire continued to struggle with economic decline, political instability, and barbarian invasions, culminating in the fall of Rome to the Visigoths in 476 AD. In the East, by contrast, the Byzantine Empire continued to thrive, enduring for over 1,000 years until its final collapse to the Ottoman Turks in 1453 AD. As we reflect on the division of the Roman Empire in 395 AD, it is clear that this event marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of the ancient world, one characterized by division, conflict, and upheaval. Yet it also laid the groundwork for the emergence of two distinct civilizations, Western Europe and the Byzantine Empire, each with its own unique identity, culture, and legacy. Barbarian invasions, 4th to 5th centuries AD. The barbarian invasions of the 4th and 5th centuries AD represent a pivotal period in the history of the Roman Empire, as the once mighty empire faced a series of devastating attacks from barbarian tribes that ultimately led to its downfall. These invasions, which originated from the northern and eastern frontiers of the empire, exposed the weaknesses of Rome's military, political, and economic institutions and hastened the empire's decline and eventual collapse. The term barbarian was originally used by the ancient Greeks to refer to any non-Greek-speaking people, but it later came to be associated with the various Germanic, Hunnic, and Slavic tribes that inhabited the regions north and east of the Roman Empire. These tribes, which included the Visigoths, Vandals, Ostrogoths, Franks, and Huns, were fierce warriors and skilled horsemen who posed a serious threat to the security and stability of the empire. The barbarian invasions were fueled by a variety of factors, including population pressure, environmental degradation, and internal unrest within the Roman Empire. As the Roman economy declined and agricultural production faltered, many barbarian tribes began to migrate into Roman territory in search of land, food, and plunder, putting increasing pressure on the empire's frontiers and leading to violent clashes with Roman forces. One of the most significant barbarian invasions occurred in 410 AD, when the Visigoths, under the leadership of King Alaric, sacked the city of Rome, marking the first time in over 800 years that the Eternal City had fallen to a foreign enemy. The sack of Rome sent shockwaves throughout the empire and dealt a severe blow to the prestige and authority of the Roman government, which was unable to protect its own capital from barbarian attack. Yet, the sack of Rome was just one in a series of devastating invasions that rocked the Roman Empire during this period. In the east, the Huns, a nomadic confederation from Central Asia, launched a series of devastating raids into Roman territory, sacking cities, plundering towns, and spreading fear and chaos among the populace. In the west, the Vandals, a Germanic tribe from Eastern Europe, launched a series of naval raids along the coast of North Africa, disrupting trade and commerce and weakening the empire's grip on its western provinces. The barbarian invasions also had profound implications for the internal politics of the Roman Empire, as rival factions vied for power and influence in the midst of the chaos and instability. In the West, the Roman government was paralyzed by infighting and corruption, as rival generals and politicians jockeyed for position and influence, while in the east, the Byzantine Empire struggled to maintain control over its vast and diverse territories in the face of mounting external threats. One of the most significant consequences of the barbarian invasions was the gradual collapse of Roman authority in the western provinces of the empire. As barbarian tribes continued to press against the empire's frontiers and launch increasingly bold and audacious attacks, Roman control over its western territories began to erode, leading to the gradual disintegration of imperial authority and the emergence of a patchwork of independent kingdoms and territories. Yet, despite the seemingly unstoppable advance of the barbarian hordes, the Roman Empire did not fall overnight. The empire continued to endure for several more decades, as emperors such as Diocletian, Constantine the Great, and Theodosius II sought to shore up the empire's defenses, strengthen its military and restore stability to its territories. However, by the end of the 5th century AD, the empire's days were numbered, as the barbarian invasions, combined with internal strife and economic decline, pushed the empire to the brink of collapse. As we reflect on the barbarian invasions of the 4th and 5th centuries AD, it is clear that these events represented a turning point in the history of the Roman Empire, as the once mighty empire faced a series of challenges that ultimately proved too great to overcome. Yet despite its eventual collapse, the legacy of the Roman Empire continues to endure, shaping the course of Western civilization and leaving an indelible mark on the world. Fall of the Western Roman Empire, 476 AD. The fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD represents a watershed moment in the history of the ancient world, marking the end of over 5 centuries of Roman rule in the Western provinces and the beginning of the Middle Ages in Europe. This event, which saw the deposition of the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, by the barbarian chieftain Odoacer, marked the traditional end of the Western Roman Empire and brought an end to an era of Roman dominance in the Mediterranean world. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was the culmination of a long period of decline and disintegration that had plagued the empire for centuries. By the 5th century AD, the once mighty empire had been weakened by internal strife, economic decline, and external threats from barbarian tribes who continued to press against its frontiers and launch devastating raids into Roman territory. One of the most significant factors contributing to the fall of the Western Roman Empire was the erosion of Roman authority and legitimacy in the western provinces. As the empire struggled to maintain control over its vast and diverse territories, local elites began to assert their independence and establish their own fiefdoms and kingdoms, further weakening the authority of the central government and hastening the empire's decline. The decline of the Western Roman Empire was also exacerbated by economic decline and social unrest. As trade routes were disrupted, agricultural production declined, and inflation soared, many people began to lose faith in the ability of the Roman government to provide for their needs and protect them from external threats. This led to widespread poverty, social unrest, and discontent among the populace, further weakening the empire's already fragile foundations. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was precipitated by a series of events that unfolded in the late 5th century AD. In 476 AD, the barbarian chieftain Odoacer, who had served as a mercenary in the Roman army, deposed the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, and proclaimed himself king of Italy. With the fall of the Western Roman Empire, Odoacer became the de facto ruler of Italy and ushered in a new era of barbarian rule in the western provinces. Yet, despite the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the legacy of Rome endured. The Roman Empire had left an indelible mark on the world, shaping the course of Western civilization and leaving behind a legacy of law, language, culture, and architecture that continues to influence the modern world. The fall of the Western Roman Empire marked the end of one chapter in the history of Rome, but the beginning of another, as the empire's legacy continued to shape the course of European history for centuries to come. One of the most enduring legacies of the Western Roman Empire was its system of law and governance, which formed the basis for many of the legal systems and political institutions of modern Europe. The Roman legal system, with its emphasis on the rule of law, due process, and individual rights, laid the groundwork for the development of modern legal principles and concepts, while the Roman administrative system, with its network of roads, bridges, and aqueducts, facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture throughout the empire. The fall of the Western Roman Empire also had profound implications for the future of Europe, as the power vacuum left by the collapse of Roman authority was filled by a patchwork of barbarian kingdoms and territories. These kingdoms, which included the Visigothic kingdom in Spain, the Frankish kingdom in Gaul, and the Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy, would play a crucial role in shaping the political, social, and cultural landscape of medieval Europe. Yet, despite the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, the legacy of Rome endured. The Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, continued to thrive for over 1,000 years, preserving and transmitting the traditions of Roman civilization to future generations. The legacy of Rome can be seen in the architecture of medieval cathedrals, the language of the law, and the ideals of democracy and human rights that continue to shape the modern world. As we reflect on the fall of the Western Roman Empire, it is clear that this event marked the end of one of the greatest civilizations in history and the beginning of a new era in European history. Yet, the legacy of Rome continues to endure, shaping the course of Western civilization and inspiring future generations to strive for greatness. Byzantine Empire, 330 AD to 1453 AD. The Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire, stands as one of the most enduring and influential civilizations in world history. From its foundation by Emperor Constantine the Great in 330 AD to its fall to the Ottoman Turks in 1453 AD, the Byzantine Empire played a central role in shaping the course of European, Middle Eastern, and Mediterranean history, leaving behind a rich legacy of art, culture, and civilization that continues to captivate scholars and historians to this day. The Byzantine Empire emerged from the division of the Roman Empire in 395 AD, when the eastern provinces were placed under the control of Emperor Arcadius, while the western provinces fell under the control of Emperor Honorius. Yet, unlike its western counterpart, which succumbed to barbarian invasions and internal strife, the Byzantine Empire remained relatively stable and prosperous, thanks to its strong economy, robust military and strategic location at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. One of the most significant factors contributing to the longevity and resilience of the Byzantine Empire was its ability to adapt and evolve in the face of changing circumstances. Unlike the Western Roman Empire, which clung stubbornly to the traditions of the past, the Byzantine Empire embraced innovation and change, adopting new technologies, institutions, and ideas from the cultures and civilizations with which it came into contact. One of the defining features of the Byzantine Empire was its unique blend of Roman, Greek, and Christian traditions, which combined to create a rich and vibrant culture that set it apart from its neighbors. The Byzantine Empire inherited the administrative, legal, and military institutions of the Roman Empire, while also drawing on the cultural and intellectual traditions of ancient Greece and the teachings of the Christian Church. The Byzantine Empire reached its zenith under the reign of Emperor Justinian I, who ruled from 527 AD to 565 AD and presided over a period of unprecedented expansion and prosperity. During his reign, Justinian reconquered much of the Western territories that had been lost to barbarian invasions, including Italy, North Africa, and parts of Spain, restoring the glory and grandeur of the Roman Empire. Yet despite its military triumphs and territorial expansion, the Byzantine Empire faced numerous challenges and setbacks throughout its long and storied history. In the 7th century AD, the empire was rocked by a series of devastating invasions by the Arab armies of Islam, which conquered much of the eastern provinces and laid siege to the imperial capital of Constantinople. The Arab invasions marked the beginning of a long and protracted struggle between the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world, as the two civilizations clashed repeatedly over control of the eastern Mediterranean and the holy city of Jerusalem. Yet despite the empire's best efforts, it was unable to halt the advance of the Arab armies, and by the end of the 7th century AD, much of the eastern provinces had fallen under Muslim rule. Despite these setbacks, the Byzantine Empire continued to endure thanks to its strong economy, resilient military, and strategic alliances with neighboring powers. In the 9th century AD, under the Macedonian dynasty, the empire experienced a period of cultural and intellectual flourishing known as the Byzantine Renaissance, as scholars, artists, and theologians flocked to Constantinople to study and create works of art and literature. The Byzantine Empire also played a central role in preserving and transmitting the cultural and intellectual heritage of the ancient world to future generations. Byzantine scholars and scribes preserved many of the works of ancient Greece and Rome, copying and translating them into Greek and Latin and ensuring their survival during the Dark Ages that followed the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Yet despite its enduring legacy and cultural achievements, the Byzantine Empire could not escape the forces of history. In the 13th century AD, the empire was weakened by internal strife, economic decline, and external pressures from the rising powers of Europe and the Middle East. In 1453 AD, after a protracted siege, Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks, bringing an end to over 1,000 years of Byzantine rule and marking the final chapter in the history of the Eastern Roman Empire. As we reflect on the history of the Byzantine Empire, it is clear that this remarkable civilization left behind a legacy that continues to shape the course of world history to this day. From its grand palaces and magnificent churches to its rich tradition of art, literature, and philosophy, the Byzantine Empire remains a testament to the enduring power of human creativity, ingenuity, and resilience in the face of adversity. Justinian December, 527 AD to 565 AD, Emperor Justinian Mama, also known as Justinian the Great, ruled over the Byzantine Empire from 527 AD to 565 AD, and is widely regarded as one of the most significant and influential rulers in Byzantine history. His reign marked a period of profound transformation and consolidation as he sought to restore the glory and grandeur of the Roman Empire and establish a new era of prosperity and stability for the Byzantine Empire. Justinian was born around 482 AD in the city of Tauresium in Illyricum, modern-day Macedonia, to a peasant family of Latin-speaking Roman origin. Despite his humble beginnings, Justinian rose to prominence through a combination of intelligence, ambition, and political skill, eventually ascending to the throne in 527 AD, following the death of his uncle, Emperor Justin I. One of Justinian's most enduring legacies was his ambitious program of military conquest and territorial expansion. Determined to restore the territorial integrity of the Roman Empire, Justinian launched a series of military campaigns aimed at reclaiming the western provinces that had been lost to barbarian invasions in previous centuries. One of the most significant military campaigns of Justinian's reign was the reconquest of Italy, which had been occupied by the Ostrogothic kingdom since the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. In 535 AD, Justinian dispatched his general Belisarius to Italy with a powerful army, and over the course of several years the Byzantine forces succeeded in defeating the Ostrogoths and reclaiming much of Italy for the empire. Yet despite his military triumphs and territorial gains, Justinian's reign was not without its challenges. He faced opposition from rival powers in the east, including the Sasanian Empire of Persia, which launched a series of devastating invasions into Byzantine territory, capturing the strategic fortress of Dara and laying siege to the imperial capital of Constantinople. One of the most significant achievements of Justinian's reign was his codification of Roman law. Recognizing the need to streamline and systematize the complex body of Roman law that had accumulated over the centuries, Justinian commissioned a team of legal scholars to compile and organize the laws into a single, coherent code. The result was the Codex Justinianus, also known as the Justinian Code, which was promulgated in 529 AD and became the foundation of Byzantine law for centuries to come. The Justinian Code codified and clarified many aspects of Roman law, including civil law, criminal law, and administrative law, and established a legal framework that would shape the course of Western legal tradition for centuries to come. Another significant achievement of Justinian's reign was his patronage of art, architecture, and culture. Justinian undertook a vast building program, constructing numerous churches, palaces, and public buildings throughout the empire, including the magnificent Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, which remains one of the greatest architectural achievements of the Byzantine Empire. Justinian's reign was also marked by a flourishing of art, literature, and scholarship, as Byzantine scholars, poets, and theologians produced a wealth of works that reflected the intellectual and cultural vitality of the empire. Under Justinian's patronage, the Byzantine Empire became a center of learning and creativity, attracting scholars and artists from across the Mediterranean world. Yet, despite his many achievements, Justinian's reign was not without controversy. He faced criticism from both contemporaries and later historians for his authoritarian rule, his heavy taxation, and his ambitious military campaigns, which drained the empire's resources and strained its economy. Justinian's reign came to an end with his death in 565 AD, after nearly 4 decades on the throne. He was succeeded by his nephew Justin II, who faced the daunting task of maintaining the empire's territorial gains and preserving its internal stability in the face of growing external threats and internal unrest. As we reflect on the reign of Justinian, it is clear that his legacy is a complex and multifaceted one. He was a visionary leader who sought to restore the glory and grandeur of the Roman Empire and establish a new era of prosperity and stability for the Byzantine Empire. Yet, he was also a controversial figure whose reign was marked by conflict, controversy, and contradiction. Despite his flaws and shortcomings, Justinian's reign remains one of the most significant and influential in Byzantine history, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape the course of world history to this day. Arab invasions, 7th century AD. The Arab invasions of the 7th century AD represent a pivotal moment in the history of the Byzantine Empire, as the emerging Islamic caliphates launched a series of devastating invasions into Byzantine territory, forever altering the political, religious, and cultural landscape of the Eastern Mediterranean. The rise of Islam in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century AD posed a serious threat to the Byzantine Empire, which had long been locked in a struggle for dominance with the Sasanian Empire of Persia to the east. The newly unified Arab tribes, inspired by the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, quickly established themselves as a formidable military force, conquering vast territories and establishing a powerful new empire centered on the Arabian Peninsula. One of the most significant events of this period was the Battle of Yarmouk in 636 AD, in which the Arab armies decisively defeated the Byzantine forces and secured control over much of the Levant. The battle marked the beginning of a long and protracted struggle between the Byzantine Empire and the emerging Islamic caliphates for control of the Eastern Mediterranean and the fertile lands of the Levant. The Arab invasions posed a serious threat to the Byzantine Empire, which was already weakened by internal strife, economic decline, and external pressures from the rising powers of Europe and the Middle East. The Byzantine military, though formidable, was stretched thin defending the empire's vast frontiers, and it struggled to contain the advance of the Arab armies, which were motivated by religious zeal and driven by the promise of plunder and conquest. The Arab invasions also had profound implications for the religious landscape of the Eastern Mediterranean. As the Arab armies advanced into Byzantine territory, they brought with them the teachings of Islam, which quickly spread among the indigenous populations of the Levant, Palestine, and Egypt. Many of these populations, disillusioned with the corruption and decadence of the Byzantine Church, embraced Islam as a new and vibrant faith that offered hope and salvation in a troubled world. One of the most significant consequences of the Arab invasions was the loss of key Byzantine territories in the eastern provinces. By the end of the 7th century AD, much of the Levant, Palestine, and Egypt had fallen under Muslim rule, severing the Byzantine Empire's access to vital trade routes and resources and weakening its position as a regional power. Despite these setbacks, the Byzantine Empire continued to endure, thanks to its strong economy, resilient military, and strategic alliances with neighboring powers. In the 8th century AD, under the Isaurian dynasty, the empire experienced a period of resurgence and renewal, as the Byzantine emperors launched a series of military campaigns aimed at reclaiming lost territories and restoring the empire's former glory. One of the most significant figures of this period was Emperor Leo III, who ruled from 717 AD to 741 AD and successfully repelled a series of Arab sieges of Constantinople, thereby preserving the integrity of the Byzantine Empire and safeguarding its capital from capture. Leo's reign marked a turning point in Byzantine history as the empire emerged from the shadow of the Arab invasions and began to assert itself once again as a major power in the Eastern Mediterranean. Yet despite these successes, the Byzantine Empire was never able to fully recover from the trauma of the Arab invasions. The loss of key territories in the eastern provinces, combined with internal strife, economic decline, and external pressures from the rising powers of Europe and the Middle East, gradually weakened the empire's position and undermined its ability to project power and influence beyond its borders. As we reflect on the impact of the Arab invasions on the Byzantine Empire, it is clear that this period marked a profound turning point in the history of the Eastern Mediterranean. The Arab invasions forever altered the political, religious, and cultural landscape of the region, setting the stage for centuries of conflict and coexistence between the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world. Yet despite the challenges and hardships it faced, the Byzantine Empire continued to endure, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape the course of world history to this day. Decline of the Byzantine Empire, 11th, 15th centuries AD. The decline of the Byzantine Empire in the 11th to 15th centuries AD marked a period of gradual erosion and fragmentation for one of the most enduring civilizations in world history. Once a dominant power in the Eastern Mediterranean, the Byzantine Empire faced a series of internal and external challenges that gradually weakened its position and hastened its decline. One of the key factors contributing to the decline of the Byzantine Empire was internal strife and political instability. Throughout its long history, the Byzantine Empire was plagued by dynastic rivalries, court intrigues, and power struggles among the nobility, which undermined the authority of the central government and weakened the empire's ability to govern effectively. The Byzantine Empire also faced significant economic challenges during this period. Declining revenues from trade and taxation, combined with inflation and financial mismanagement, strained the empire's finances and made it difficult to maintain a strong and effective military. As a result, the Byzantine Empire was forced to rely increasingly on mercenaries and foreign allies to defend its borders, further weakening its military capabilities and undermining its security. Another significant factor contributing to the decline of the Byzantine Empire was external pressure from neighboring powers. Throughout the Middle Ages, the Byzantine Empire found itself surrounded by hostile neighbors, including the Seljuk Turks, the Bulgarian Empire, and the rising powers of Western Europe, all of which sought to expand their territories at Byzantium's expense. One of the most significant events of this period was the capture of Constantinople by the Fourth Crusade in 1204 AD. The Crusaders, who had originally set out to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control, instead turned their sights on Constantinople, which they viewed as a rival to their own ambitions in the Eastern Mediterranean. After a brutal siege, the Crusaders captured the city and looted its treasures, dealing a devastating blow to the Byzantine Empire and marking the beginning of its final decline. Despite these setbacks, the Byzantine Empire continued to endure, thanks to its strong economy, resilient military, and strategic alliances with neighboring powers. In the 13th century AD, under the Palaiologos dynasty, the empire experienced a brief period of resurgence and renewal, as the Byzantine emperors launched a series of military campaigns aimed at reclaiming lost territories and restoring the empire's former glory. Yet, despite these efforts, the Byzantine Empire was never able to fully recover from the trauma of the Fourth Crusade. The loss of Constantinople and the empire's other territories in Asia Minor, combined with internal strife, economic decline, and external pressures from the rising powers of Western Europe and the Ottoman Turks, gradually weakened the empire's position and undermined its ability to project power and influence beyond its borders. The final blow to the Byzantine Empire came in 1453 AD, when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks after a protracted siege. The fall of Constantinople marked the end of over 1,000 years of Byzantine rule and the beginning of a new era in European and Middle Eastern history. Yet, despite its ultimate collapse, the Byzantine Empire left behind a rich and enduring legacy that continues to shape the course of world history to this day. One of the most enduring legacies of the Byzantine Empire is its role as a bridge between the ancient and medieval worlds. Throughout its long history, the Byzantine Empire preserved and transmitted the cultural, intellectual, and artistic achievements of the ancient world to future generations, safeguarding the legacy of Greece and Rome during the Dark Ages that followed the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The Byzantine Empire also played a central role in shaping the course of European history, as it served as a bulwark against the advance of Islam into Europe and a beacon of civilization and culture in an otherwise turbulent and chaotic world. The legacy of the Byzantine Empire can be seen in the architecture of medieval cathedrals, the language of the law, and the ideals of democracy and human rights that continue to shape the modern world. As we reflect on the decline of the Byzantine Empire, it is clear that this period marked the end of one of the most enduring and influential civilizations in world history. Yet despite its ultimate collapse, the legacy of the Byzantine Empire continues to endure, shaping the course of world history and inspiring future generations to strive for greatness. Fall of Constantinople, 1453 AD. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 AD stands as one of the most significant events in world history, marking the end of over 1,000 years of Byzantine rule and the beginning of a new era in European and Middle Eastern history. The fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks was the culmination of a long period of decline and fragmentation for the Byzantine Empire, and it had profound implications for the future of Europe, the Middle East, and the world. By the 15th century AD, the Byzantine Empire had been reduced to little more than the city of Constantinople and its surrounding territories in Asia Minor. The empire had been weakened by centuries of internal strife, economic decline, and external pressure from neighboring powers, and it struggled to maintain its independence and sovereignty in the face of growing threats from the rising powers of Western Europe and the Ottoman Turks. The Ottoman Turks, led by Sultan Mehmed II, had been eyeing Constantinople for decades, viewing it as a strategic prize and a symbol of their growing power and influence in the region. In 1453 AD, Mehmed II launched a massive siege of Constantinople, bringing to bear a formidable army and a vast array of siege weapons in an effort to breach the city's formidable defenses. The siege of Constantinople was a brutal and protracted affair, lasting for over 2 months, and resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians on both sides. The Byzantine defenders, led by Emperor Constantine V, fought valiantly to repel the Ottoman assault, but they were ultimately overwhelmed by the sheer size and strength of Mehmed's army. On May 29, 1453 AD, after a fierce and bloody battle, the Ottoman forces breached the walls of Constantinople and stormed the city, unleashing a wave of violence and destruction that would forever alter the course of history. The fall of Constantinople marked the end of over 1,000 years of Byzantine rule and the beginning of a new era in European and Middle Eastern history. The fall of Constantinople had profound implications for the future of Europe, the Middle East, and the world. With the fall of Constantinople, the last bastion of Byzantine civilization had fallen, and the Ottoman Turks emerged as the dominant power in the Eastern Mediterranean. The fall of Constantinople also had far-reaching consequences for the future of Europe, as it spurred a wave of exploration and colonization that would eventually lead to the discovery of the New World and the rise of European imperialism. Yet, despite its significance, the fall of Constantinople did not mark the end of Byzantine civilization. Many Byzantine scholars, artists, and intellectuals fled the city in the wake of the Ottoman conquest, taking with them the cultural and intellectual heritage of the Byzantine Empire and preserving it for future generations. The legacy of Byzantine civilization can be seen in the art, architecture, and literature of the Renaissance, as well as in the traditions of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which continue to flourish in the Balkans, Russia, and other parts of the world. The fall of Constantinople also had profound implications for the future of the Ottoman Empire. With the conquest of Constantinople, the Ottomans became the dominant power in the Eastern Mediterranean, controlling vast territories and commanding immense wealth and resources. The fall of Constantinople also established the Ottomans as the preeminent Islamic power in the region, allowing them to expand their influence into Europe, Asia, and Africa. Yet, despite their initial triumph, the Ottomans would eventually face their own decline and collapse, as internal strife, economic decline, and external pressures from the rising powers of Western Europe and the Middle East gradually weakened their position and undermined their ability to govern effectively. The Ottoman Empire would eventually collapse in the early 20th century, marking the end of over 6 centuries of Ottoman rule and the beginning of a new era in the history of the Middle East. As we reflect on the fall of Constantinople, it is clear that this event marked the end of one of the most enduring and influential civilizations in world history, and the beginning of a new era in European and Middle Eastern history. Yet despite its ultimate collapse, the legacy of Byzantine civilization continues to endure, shaping the course of world history and inspiring future generations to strive for greatness.